I will never forget the day when Deborah Wilkins, our president of the HOA, went totally crazy over a car horn. One moment I was in my car, and the next this woman who terrorized the neighborhood was on my hood banging away, her face twisted up in anger, yelling so loud that people were running out of their houses to see what's going on. "How dare you honk at me? Do you know who I am?" she screamed, her designer sunglasses slipping off as she pointed her finger at my windshield. I run this neighborhood. I sat paralyzed behind the wheel, trying to figure out how a polite little tap of my horn had elicited such a violent response. Cars were piling up behind us, and people were beginning to film the scene on their phones. Deborah didn't stop ranting, not noticing the crowd that had gathered until we caught the distant wail of police sirens heading down our normally quiet suburban street. I hadn't planned on my Tuesday afternoon, consisting of seeing a grown woman totally lose it in the middle of the road. But if you live in Oakwood Estates, you get used to the unexpected whenever Deborah is the star of the show. It had begun around 20 minutes prior. I was on my way home from work, anticipating unwinding after a long day at the office. Our community features those immaculately manicured lawns and uniform mailboxes that shout strict homeowners association, and no one policed those rules with more fervor than Deborah Wilkins, our HOA president, for the last 4 years. Deborah had taken it upon herself to uphold what she referred to as the standards of our neighborhood. This involved sending out notice of violations for grass that was a quarter-inch too long, locating people who left their garbage cans outside for longer than 6 hours following pickup, and holding monthly meetings where she would berate everyone regarding property values while drinking from her monogrammed water bottle. As I made the turn onto Maple Drive, I saw a white SUV sitting in the center of the road, not at an intersection or stop sign, just sitting there with the driver's door open ever so slightly ajar. I eased up, waited for about 15 seconds, and then gave a light friendly toot. Not anything harsh, just a friendly excuse me type of toot. The driver's door swung open and out stretched Deborah in her signature uniform. Designer capri pants, a pastel-colored polo shirt with a popped collar, and those huge sunglasses that somehow served to make her appear even more menacing. She glared at me, then went out of her way to roll her eyes, climbed back into her SUV, and shut the door but did not leave. I waited another minute, then honked again, a little longer this time. That is when I noticed her roll down her window and give me a rude gesture in her rear-view mirror. She was specifically obstructing the road. I couldn't believe this. There was barely enough space for me to get through beside her, so I slowly navigated my car past her SUV and drove on towards my home. I figured that would be the last of it, but in my rear view I saw Deborah's SUV come to life in an instant. She cut a sharp U-turn and started tucking up behind me uncomfortably close to my rear bumper. I cranked up speed a bit, hoping she would drop back, but she maintained her steady pace right behind me, blasting her horn relentlessly. And then as I pulled onto my street, Deborah swerved over into the opposite lane to drive up next to me. She had her window down and was yelling something that I couldn't really hear. And then in a horrifying gesture, she began firing what appeared to be wadded-up HOA newsletters out her window at my vehicle. There were several of my neighbors standing outside and they witnessed this surreal spectacle, their faces a mixture of shocked and strangely unsurprised. "You think you can show disrespect to me? I am the president of this HOA. I will make your life miserable," she yelled, her voice echoing down the quiet street. I refused to engage, keeping my eyes straight ahead and driving at a steady pace toward my home. When I pulled into my driveway, I anticipated Deborah driving by, maybe with one last angry honk. Instead, she veered her SUV right behind me, blocking me in. Before I could even shut off my engine, she was out of her car, smartphone in hand, filming me as I got out of my vehicle. "This is the third time this resident has harassed me this month," she told her phone, entirely making up events. "He just tried to assault me by aggressively honking and attempting to run me off the road. I'm documenting everything for the board meeting and possible legal action." I was stunned. "Deborah, all I did was honk because you were stopped in the middle of the road. You're the one who tailed me home." This only seemed to infuriate her further. She stormed up to my front door and began pounding on it, despite the fact that I was still standing in the driveway. "You will be fined for this. Maximum penalties. I'll make sure your infractions go on permanent record with the HOA. You'll never sit on any committee in this neighborhood." What Deborah hadn't realized was that several neighbors had come outside during her show. Mrs. Chen from across the street was discreetly filming the whole scene. Mrs. Chen from across the street was discreetly filming the whole scene. Mrs. Chen from across the street was discreetly filming the whole scene. Tom and Sarah from 2 doors down were standing there with their arms crossed. And my next-door neighbor, Robert, who happened to be a retired police officer, was already on his phone. "Yes? We need assistance at 427 Oakwood Lane," I heard him say calmly. We have a woman committing aggressive behavior who tailed a driver home and is now trespassing and threatening. We have video of her driving recklessly and hurling objects from her car. Deborah was so engrossed in her tirade that she didn't catch Robert's call. She kept filming herself as she recited all the HOA infractions she claimed to have captured evidence of against me. From unauthorized window treatments to the bird feeder in my backyard that supposedly was half an inch over the allowable size. The board will learn about all this at the emergency meeting I'm convening for tomorrow night, she announced. Her voice growing louder with every word, and I'll be requesting the highest fine possible per infraction. That's more than $2,000 in case you were wondering. By this time, a small group had gathered at a safe distance. Even folks who usually stayed out of neighborhood gossip were witnessing Deborah's meltdown. The tension was broken when we heard the sound of police sirens heading our way. Deborah's look of righteous outrage changed to one of confusion, then indignation, as a police cruiser stopped in front of my house. Two officers got out, eyeing the situation with practiced calm. Deborah immediately approached them, phone still rolling. "Officers, I'm so glad you're here. I'm Deborah Wilkins, president of the Oakwood Estates Homeowners Association. This man," she pointed dramatically at me, "has been harassing me and threatened me with his car. I want to press charges right now." The first officer nodded deferentially. "Ma'am, we had several calls about a road rage incident and a woman tailing someone home and causing a disturbance. Do you have anything to tell us about that?" Deborah's face turned red. "That's not what happened at all. I was doing official HOA business when this man aggressively honked at me, putting my safety at risk. I simply tailed him to document his infractions." "Actually, officers," Mrs. Chen said, moving forward with her phone. "I have video of the entire thing, starting with when she obstructed the road and made an obscene gesture, then tailed him home." Tom and Sarah nodded. "We saw her hurling things from her car at his vehicle." Sarah added. The officers exchanged a look, then back to Deborah, whose look of righteous outrage was beginning to crumble. "Ma'am, we're going to need to see some ID, and we'd like to see any video evidence." As the officers watched the footage from several neighbors, Deborah's attitude changed in a big way. She went from aggressive to defensive, then attempted. "These individuals don't know the stress that I'm under." The officers were professional but unyielding. Following interviews with numerous witnesses and viewing the videos, they went to Deborah, who sat on the curb, alternating between scowling at neighbors and glancing at her phone. "Wilkins, in light of the evidence and testimony, we're arresting you for reckless driving, disorderly conduct, and threatening. Stand up and put your hands behind your back." The expression of shock on Deborah's face is one that I will never forget. "You can't arrest me, do you understand who I am? I'm the HOA president. I have friends on the city council." As calmly as possible, the officers handcuffed her. Deborah's voice escalated to a scream. "All of this is a mistake. I'll have all your positions. I'll sue this whole neighborhood. My husband golfs with the mayor." The officers brought her to the police car, reciting her rights as she went on threats. Her shining white SUV, still parked behind my car and the driver's door open, was towed away. Neighbors stood watching silently as the police car moved off with Deborah in the rear seat, still in view through the window, obviously yelling, but no longer understandable. 3 weeks after, I got a formal letter from the HOA of Oakwood Estates. Deborah had been formally charged with 3 misdemeanors and stood to possibly be jailed for 6 months and receive more than $5,000 in fines. She had been promptly ousted from the HOA board by unanimous vote in an emergency meeting. The letter further stated that she had lost her job at a local real estate agency after footage of her actions went viral on our community forums. The biggest shock came when I drove past Deborah's residence the following day and noticed for sale sign freshly planted in her pristine lawn, ironically breaking the very HOA rule she had established regarding signage being put up only on weekends. Her response was just as I anticipated. I caught a glimpse of her as I walked by, phone to her ear, gesticulating wildly with total incredulity written on her face. The queen of the cul-de-sac had been overthrown at last.